for an EDF. EDF shouldn't fly this slow, but this plane does. Welcome to the shop. I've got your first EDF. Yes, the Viper 64 Eflite. Man, I got to tell you, this is a phenomenal plane. When I got this plane, I did want to take it, think about it from a beginner's perspective, because I've seen way too many times where people get comfortable with their trainer and they decide to go and get an EDF, and they come to the field with like the Eflite A10 or the Viper 70. No, and it doesn't last long. I'll tell you that. It just gets obliterated right away. And the main reason is the plane's too fast and they're not ready for that speed. They're processing on looking at the plane. What does the plane need? They're way behind it. And the analogy I think of is this. Look, when you started driving, you were driving in a parking lot, school parking lot or rural roads, things that are quiet and slow. You took it easy. You didn't go from the parking lot to the highway. No, you stepped up to that and finally made your way to the highway. Same thing here with these EDFs. You gotta step into it. And this is that next step, because this plane flies slower than any EDF I've ever seen. Now, don't get me wrong, E-flite makes a beginner Habu. This plane has a wider wingspan and it's significantly lighter, which means it's very forgiving while flying slow. So, in this video, I'm gonna dig into a lot of that. First, we're gonna do a speed assembly and then go to the field, and I'm gonna show this plane off and all the features of it. Then we'll come back to the shop and summarize. So, stick around. This is gonna be awesome. Very briefly, I'm gonna go over the pieces and parts of this plane. This plane's been out for a little while. A lot of people have talked about it. It's packaged typical E-flite packaging, typical E-flite quality. The lights are fantastic. Actually, the lights are really very, very cool. Super low part count. You got a handful of pieces and parts, fuselage, everything is done well. This is the bind and fly with an AR-631, which by the way has everything included on it. You can download to your transmitter. You've got quality ball links, foam hinges on this particular one. The landing gear are detachable and pretty simple to install and remove if you want a hand launcher. All in all, low part count, easy to assemble. All right, assembly, we got a handful of screws, but it's pretty simple. The stabilizer or horizontal stab slides in like so, and you will have 3 screws that need to be tightened up, 2 on either side there and 1 in the very back. Next step, attach the wing, slap the wing on top, and then now you have 6 screws that have to get tightened, and you are done. Got to connect the 2 ball links for the elevator. They're a little tight. I had to use my ball link pliers. When you decide to bind the receiver to your transmitter, it's going to go through the normal bind, and then after that it's going to ask you if you want to use basically the transmitter file that's in the receiver. It has all the settings, all the flight modes, everything's already set up. And you can go ahead and do that and confirm that, or just load the model normally like you would in previous models. Rates and expos, pretty simple. The rates were the high in the book, and I did about 20% expo except for the rudder, which was 30%. CG was about at 85 millimeters. I have the Eflite Viper 64 millimeter. This is a perfect plane, at least I think it is, for the newish pilot that wants to fly an EDF. It's 4S, so you have ample access to those lower cost batteries than a big 6S. This plane offers several things. One is it flies incredibly slow. And that is the biggest problem when transitioning from a prop plane, going from an apprentice, Aero Scout, even let's say a 1.2 Warbird. Moving to an EDF can be a challenge for pilots because the speed of which things happen. Staying ahead of the plane is critical. And having a slow flying EDF, which you can gradually get up to in higher speeds, is super important. So here's what I'm gonna do. As far as takeoff, I'm gonna take off without flap, without anything, just to show how slow this plane will fly, and then I'll engage the flaps and really show how this thing will slow down. So on takeoff, you could use flap if you want, I don't. And we're just gonna lift up. No flap. And it doesn't fly, you know, it's not flying any faster than your Aero Scout or your 1.2 Warbird.
Time remaining 3 minutes.
Now the other thing that I love about it right now, no flaps, right? Watch this, I'm gonna flip flaps.
Landing flaps.
Full flap. Watch this. This thing flies super slow. And you can fly it slow into the turns. Don't go too tight on the turns, because you will drop a wing if you do that. At slow speed. If you have this thing dialed all the way up, full speed or cruising fast, it'll turn super tight without snapping on you, which is another benefit. The wing load on this plane, and that's another piece of this, is keep it light, but the wing load is super nice for easy slow flying performance.
Takeoff flaps.
But it'll also get moving. What an amazing plane. It is becoming one of my favorite little jets. Now, I like doing touch and goes and all of that stuff, so I'm keeping the gear on for now, but my buddy Model Aviator says that it flies even better without the gear, performance wise, but I just like landing on runways.
Landing flaps.
Look at this, watch this. It just crawls by. Let's do a touch and go here. Show you how slow we can bring this in. I'm watching the plane to make sure I'm giving it what it needs speed wise. Drop a little altitude on the turn.
20 seconds.
Get that nose up. A little power. How much?
Flight pack 14.6 volts.
I'm flying for 3.5 minutes. Nice and easy, as well as some fun. All right, let's bring her back in here. All right, we're gonna bring her in for a landing and then head back to the shop and just summarize a few things. Welcome back. Let me summarize a couple things. First, I talk about the plane itself. It's a typical E-Flite plane from Horizon Hobby. All the cool bells and whistles, you know, the features that it has, how easy it is to rip the landing gear off, take the landing gear off for hand tossing, even the nose wheel. There's a little thumb screw right there, unscrew it, boom, done. No tools required. Pretty cool. Assembly, as you saw, I mean, literally, there's just a handful of screws, and it just screws together, pop on the ball links for the elevator, and you're ready to roll. There's not a lot. Setup from a radio perspective, you can actually, as soon as you bind it, just upload everything from the receiver, and now your transmitter is set up. So simple, so simple. The details, the quality, excellent. Excellent, excellent plane. It's an excellent plane, but let's be honest, it has to fly well. You know, having a really good-looking plane isn't so much fun if it just sits in your hangar because you don't want to fly it. And of course, as you saw, that was the whole point of this video for me, is to show that this is that ideal first EDF for several reasons. One is it flies super slow, and it's stable when it's slow. You could try to fly some of these other planes out there. I mean, the Habu flies really slow. And the Habu is a good plane, don't get me wrong. But this I just find to be a better first EDF. One, like I said, it flies incredibly slow. It's easy to see. The lighting system is fantastic. The landing gear, durable, does a good job at smoothing out those landings. Gives you the flight envelope you want from flying slow, and lands super easy without a lot of bouncing. But also, boy, you hit full throttle and this thing can move, highly aerobatic, and can do all of those things. So from that perspective, from a beginner's perspective,
that's pretty good.
I haven't seen an EDF that flies this slow and this stable at those slower speeds. So for me, this is a no-brainer from a first EDF perspective. Look, you have a lot of options out there as far as your next plane. I implore you, before you make that step, make sure you can master that trainer. Whichever trainer it is, that you can nail those landings and you have that super confidence in that. This is the next step plane. And I think this will suit you very well for that first EDF. And then after you get this plane dialed in and you're having fun and you can consistently land this, get that 70 millimeter, get the 80 millimeters, because I think then you're at that point where you understand what's going on the plane and you can handle the speed and processing of what the plane needs as it's flying at these high rate of speeds. If you like these videos, hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. If you have a question, leave a comment. I also have a link in the description below for this plane. If you're so inclined to get one, as I said, I'm thrilled with this plane. It's a fantastic option for that next step. So anyway, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.